Every week I get asked the same thing. Why don't you just join
Uber and London's iconic black cab are teaming up?
It sounds like a simple question, but behind it is a clash of culture, money and pride that people have no idea about.
Uber's just a minicab company.
So today I'm going to answer just that. Even with attractive sign-on bonuses, I'll be sharing the long-term reason why joining Uber could be the end of the London taxi trade. To begin, we've had apps in London long before the adoption of Uber. So this isn't a Luddite move of taxi drivers saying, oh, I don't want to use an app, I just want to get customers from the street. We've had apps within our wheelhouse for a very long time. I won't go into exact details of those apps because I've mentioned them in a previous video if you want to check that out. So with this in mind, why don't I just join Uber? It's another app like the existing taxi apps that I can get work on. Yes, they take some sort of a commission, but Uber has a huge pool of passengers waiting to get inside of my cab. Why not? It's an extra revenue source at the end of the day. And I've had to have a good, long, hard think about this. Because in theory, joining Uber is no different than joining Free now, because they have private hire cars, or Get, because they've used private hire cars in some capacity over the years. If you look on Twitter, you'll see many cab drivers moan about the fact that if you join Uber, it is the enemy of the trade. You will be the black sheep of London black cab drivers. I want to challenge the notion a little bit further. Firstly is history. In 2012, Uber launched in London with their ride-sharing revolution. This wasn't a taxi model. In fact, Uber wanted to get rid of taxis worldwide. They were vehemently opposed to the London taxi trade. They had no regard for hackney carriages or hackney carriage law, or any law for that matter, so it seems. They did offer taxi drivers the opportunity to sign up to the service.
I have never stepped in an Uber car, rather put pins in my eyes.
But because it was a business model completely opposed to the way that traditional taxis worked, i.e. meters and regulated tariffs, the uptake was practically nil.
I heard that London cabbies can now join Uber. They even get a £400 sign-on bonus. That's easy money, right?
Imagine some kind of tyrant or dictator disrupting countries, populations, everyday way of life, basically.
I will rule the world!
I haven't got to name anyone because there's plenty of these people in history. Do you think if said dictator gave up trying to conquer that country, trying to overrule it entirely, and then just say, nah, do you want to come join us? That you would just roll over and take it, maybe even providing a generous sign-up bonus? Would you roll over and take it? Let bygones be bygones and, £400. I wasn't even a taxi driver in 2012 when Uber came to try and destroy the taxi trade entirely.
Well, they are flooding the market, aren't they? You know, renting 700 Uber a week. How can we cope with that?
So whilst I directly don't have those scars, I can still look back in history.
Well, once again, the taxi trade, I'm afraid to say, this has been shafted.
We are not standing for this Uber business anymore.
You want a professional and the right people to drive you about in London? Use a London black cab.
And understand those scars, what they stand for, and potentially what a future move might look like. Let's look at their new model of signing up cabbies. Before I go into detail about what I believe Uber are trying to achieve with their new model, I want to share the sponsor of today's video who's going to make you a new man. That is Manual, men's healthcare made easily. But before you skip this section of the video, I want you to answer this honestly. Are you feeling a little bit more fatigued than you usually are? Have you experienced increased weight gain? Or perhaps even low libido? Well, they are all symptoms of low testosterone, which 1 in 4 men suffer from. So that means a good chunk of you watching this video could have low testosterone. Manual offer a full testosterone replacement therapy service. You just check your levels using a simple at-home finger prick test. I done it again this year because I wanted to ensure my levels were still as good as they were last year. Pop it all back into a prepaid envelope. Their clinicians review your results in days, and that's available in your own private personal portal. And from there, offer tailored treatments to naturally raise your testosterone levels if needed. To make this even easier, Manual are giving you 45% off of your first at-home testing kit. Just use the code TOMH45. 90% of men remain untested for their testosterone levels. Do you want to be in the 10% with me? Well, hit the link in the description down below to ensure that you're living as optimally as you could be. Now, let's discuss a little bit more about what I think Uber are trying to achieve. Well, it's very clear that Uber is wanting to become the Amazon of transportation. Line bikes, scooters, trains, coaches, planes, you name it, you can get it all on the Uber platform. And I hate to say this because it's like a wonderful PR spin. Here's one app where you can get everything, apart from black cabs. The black cab, the iconic crown jewel of transportation in London, not available on Uber. But sadly, they can claim it and they can advertise it because of a few rotten apples who, from the taxi trade, decided to join Uber when we would be so much stronger by not being on the platform.
I'd rather put pins in my eyes. I would
We
never do
have to have an iconic vehicle that was recognisable by a 4-year-old. Well, that's not the exact criteria, but you get the point. But by not joining, London taxis can remain a category of one, a business that is unique and exceptional, and thereby making its own category. We have our own work, we have our own market, and our own customer base. Every London taxi has 100% disabled accessibility, expert knowledge, and driver.
Forward into the Euston Underpass, forward Euston Road to get myself forward into Albany Street. There's a little tiny left into Regent's Park, go past another gate which would take you onto Parkway for Camden. London Zoo's on the south side there.
I can confirm he is a taxi driver.
Room for up to 6 people, access to bus lanes. By joining Uber, I'll be giving them access to all of those things. Things I've had to work very hard for to earn the right to do, but also invest a lot of my own money into that. They get access to all of that, and I have to pay them money. Not too sure about that. Here's a better proposition. If I don't join Uber, then the only way a customer can get all those benefits of a London taxi is by hailing them from the street, interfacing with that driver directly. And by doing so, the money is going directly to that driver, not being funneled through a company that has desperately tried to reduce its tax liability in the UK years and years on end. I believe they just want London taxis so they can offer a full menu of transport options. I don't think they've got the black cab trade at heart, and to be honest, for such a big organisation, I think they could have really twisted TfL's arm and various policymakers to make us side with them a bit more. Probably well within their power that they could maybe get a subsidy on these expensive vehicles. Maybe work with the boroughs to be able to allow us access back into the borough to provide essential transport solutions. That would be a good way to get cabbies on side. But they've gone very short term on this.
Money!
Why 2 to 4 years of hard graft and studying to work for the meter in this iconic vehicle would I want to put all of that in the bin and go work on a private hire platform?
Are you a London cab driver? Join Uber today. We'll give you £150 just for uploading your documents. Come on, Tom. What are you waiting on?
So why don't I play this move back to them? If I have no intention of joining Uber and actually doing jobs for them, why don't I just sign up and get the generous sign-up bonus? That will show them, right? Uber are offering a £400 sign-on bonus. £150 just for uploading your documents into their system, and a further £250 on completing your first ride. So why not just sign up and just not use the platform? Sorry, mate. First reason, data. You might think, well, £150, I haven't even got to download the app. I've just got to submit my details to them and 150 quid, easy. But they have your data forever. They know exactly your name, your address, your badge number, how long you've been a cab driver for, feeding into their information that they can use to market to you, to cab drivers like you. You're pretty much giving them that right to have your information forever. £150 for them to have my information in perpetuity. You've really got to think of the incentive structure. Why would it be £150 for something as simple as just putting your name down? There's something more insidious going on, I believe. There's a lot more that they get from that than they do giving you £150. Short term, you might think you're winning. Long term, no. Even if you never work for them, it gives Uber the upper hand. They can say that we have X amount of London cabbies on our platform. You might think it's an easy 400 quid, but it plays directly into their PR efforts. They have an uncontested amount of drivers on their platform that they will forever be able to use and say that we have got access. Thirdly, it is diluting the strong identity of the London taxi trade. Why study 2 to 4 years intensive hard graft to then be placed on an app on the same shelf with private hire drivers that have taken months, if not weeks, to get their licenses?
Hard to get, but very easy to lose.
A company that goes completely against the whole ethos of black cabs. I honestly don't know why people can't see this. It also weakens our position as a trade. By drivers joining up to Uber, they're pretty much saying, yes, I agree with this company and their policies. Meaning that if any of the big trade unions, so the LTDA, the UCG, the LCDC amongst others.
Hello, welcome to another edition of LCDC TV.
If they go to TfL and say, we don't agree with what Uber are doing here, it's not very good in the interest of private hire versus taxis, Uber could very much say, well, thank you for your concerns, but we have a certain amount of taxi drivers on board and they seem to agree with our policies irregardless. Uber are offering 5% commission for any taxi drivers until the end of 2025. But why should I be paying commission for all those benefits that I've outlined? And more than likely, for an Uber surge price, we're going to be cheaper. One of the best things about being a London cabbie is that every day is payday. Depending on which credit card machine you have fitted, if it's like my one, that I go out, I get paid by the customer, that money is in my bank account instantly. I haven't got to wait for it. But with Uber, you get paid a week later. Well, I might as well be on a salary. It's one of the best benefits of the job. And that's the current commission rate. I'd imagine by 2026, it's probably going to go up and be in line with their private hire drivers, which is 25%. That would make it the most expensive in terms of commission than any other app within the taxi market. Why would I want to take so much money away from my metered earnings? It seems backwards. So to surmise, being an Uber driver would mean I'm subject to ratings. You might argue this could be a good thing. Is it really needed when we have such high standards of London taxi drivers anyway? Uber's pricing model could potentially undercut or hyperinflate our earnings. Remember, we're on a meter-based system that is set and regulated by Transport for London. Uber themselves might actually be pocketing more than the metered price and selling it on to the passenger, or they could undercut the meter entirely in times of desperation. The London taxi trade could become fragmented. We lose our collective strength, which arguably we haven't got much of at the moment anyway, and this plays directly into Uber's hands. As it's a technology company, Uber has had some pretty big data breaches. What could that mean for you as a driver on their platform? It's taking away from our street work, our bread and butter. Why should someone join a queue at a taxi rank and wait for a taxi when they can just press the Uber button and a taxi will come along and pick them up? It makes the whole taxi system very unfair to those passengers. And finally, customers on the app are just picking based upon convenience. They don't really care whether they get in a Prius or a taxi, they're just going based upon price.
The only reason that Uber was so popular was because they were dirt cheap. Yeah. I remember when it thought, I love the app, look at this sexy app, I can see the car, it's wonderful, it's another app.
So as a result, the merits of a taxi are completely weighed up against private hire. If they surge price, Uber wins because they're inflating the price of the private hire over the price of a taxi. And if they don't surge price, well then they win again because people are going to jump in whatever option is cheapest. It is just a race to the bottom, and you can see why any self-respecting cab driver won't want to join this service.
Sorry to bother you. I'm not a customer actually. I'm coming from an e-hailing app company called Uber, and we launched Black Cab with Uber. You're interested?
London actually had a popular taxi app before Uber came to town. And if you want to find out why that failed, it wasn't Uber, then I'll leave that on screen for you now.